I think a way to combat this is to know that you are not your parents and your parents are not you. Yes, they may have done their best to raise you as best as they could. Yes, they did the best they could with the information they had, but you are not your parents. Just because they did something doesn't mean you have to do that. So I think in a situation like this, it's important to disassociate from that image of how a woman is supposed to be or how a man is supposed to be and really come into your own image of how you want to be as a person. Hello and welcome to Kitchen Table Advice. My name is Paola and I am the host of this podcast. This podcast is a safe place where you can ask for any advice you want. It can be relationship advice, both platonic or romantic, career advice, or life advice. I wanted to create a safe place where you can ask for your advice without fear. My purpose here is to serve as a guide and give you a different perspective for you to eventually both find your purpose in life as well as your voice. As a reminder, every name will be anonymous and your identity will always be kept a secret. This is not professional advice and I am not a licensed therapist or psychologist. Just think of this as advice you would get from a close friend on a kitchen table. So, let's begin. Hello, my wonderful gems. How are you? I hope you're doing amazing. If you're a returning gem, welcome back. If you're new here, hello, how are you? Make sure you set out the vibe, and if you like what you're listening to, then please feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. Okay, so as usual, we just jump into the first story of the episode. So, the title of the first story is How Do I Become More Enjoyable to Be Around? And I don't know where to start. Okay, so let's just dive in. I'm a 24-year-old woman and I mainly have low self-esteem and I have no idea how to change that. It mostly has to do with my family. My dad left my mom after 18 years and in summary, he kind of rejected me and my brother so he could be dedicated to my stepmom and her kids. If my dad tried to do something with me, she would text him things like, "Is the torture over yet?" My mom was engaged to a new person and he left her because my brother's emotional issues were something he did not want to deal with. Then I had a stepdad for 10 years who nearly passed away of cancer. I apologize for that. When I was in high school, and when he recovered, he cheated on my mom for 4 years and now they've divorced. I did not grow up with in in a secure family at all. My mom has provided all my needs and wants, but I don't have a bond with her. And I want to because I've always been kind of alone at home. The closest I had to a normal family was with my stepdad and stepsisters. But now I'm very hurt from what he has done. That makes sense? Parentheses, there are other things I haven't mentioned. And I've lost my stepsister in the process. My brother developed alcoholism and refuses to talk about any feelings of sort. I hate saying this, but I'm deeply insecure about the family that I'm a part of, and I'm struggling to nurture friendships because I'm in a lot of emotional pain. I also avoid meeting guys now, so I don't have to tell someone about my family in the dating process. And I know there are stigmas with my upbringing. I know that I'm not fun anymore, and I don't know how to be enjoyable to be around after going through what I have. Okay. Oh my gosh. I guess we are ending the year on a heavy note. I didn't think this was where the story was going to go. And I do apologize right now for how I'm sounding. I am slightly getting over a cold. I'm not even sure myself if I'm getting over it or it's coming back. I don't know, but it's here. So, hey, life must go on. So, I would say this is a very difficult one because this issue really tackles a lot of mommy issues. I know it from first reading at it, it may seem like you don't have a consistent male figure in your life, but I think you don't have a consistent female figure in your life. I think that's where the root cause of the issue is here. I'm not sure how your mom was. I don't like generalizing terms, but a lot of kids in abusive relationships or who witness their parents being in an abusive relationship. Clearly, this situation is more complex than just physical, mental. I mean, it probably has some psychological abuse here, but it's much more complex than just how we directly think of abuse. A lot of children who lived in a household with abusive parents may kind of associate that abuse with, I don't want to say love, but it's familiar. It's familiar and it reminds them of home. And in that dynamic, the girls will kind of look up to their mother as how to be the woman in a relationship, and the boys will look up to the dads on how to be the man in relationship. Children are very impressionable, they are very observant, and they look around the world to see how they're supposed to act, right? And that is why some children in abusive relationship, if you're a woman who has grown up seeing your mother who was abused, is it physically or mentally, that might be familiar to you, and you might be more prone to dating men who will treat you the way your mother was treated because you think that that's how it's supposed to be in a relationship. However, I like that now as a society we're talking about this and slowly undoing this. I think your situation actually comes from a lack of a good female role model in your life. You mentioned a lot of stuff about how your dad left your mom 18 years and he basically abandoned you and your siblings for his stepmother and stepwife. How did your mother act during that time? How was she? Was she just working around the whole time? So you didn't have that mother-daughter connection. And again, another point, you mentioned how you had a stepdad. I mean, he almost passed away, but then when he recovered, he decided to cheat on your mom. And you really like the relationship you have with your stepfather and especially your stepsister. I don't know. I feel like you need a lot of. I feel like there's a lack of. I mean, there's obviously a lack of proper male guidance, but there's also a severe lack of proper woman guidance or female guidance. And I think um I think a way to combat this is to know that you are not your parents and your parents are not you. Yes, they may have done their best to raise you as best as they could. Yes, they did the best they could with the information they had, but you are not your parents. Just because they did something doesn't mean you have to do that. So I think in a situation like this, it's important to disassociate from that image of how a woman is supposed to be or how a man is supposed to be and really come into your own image of how you want to be as a person. I think that is one way I would really tackle this matter. And I might explain it like it's so simple, but I know it's not. It takes a lot of self awareness. It takes a lot of ups and downs. It takes a lot of crying and allowing yourself to feel that pain for you to truly become that person you want to be. So I'm not gonna minimize the work, even though I'm just putting it out there as it is. I know it requires a lot of work, and I know it goes. There's a lot of ups and downs in this journey, but I think one way to really tackle this is to disassociate from that image that you have of how a woman is supposed to be, or a woman is supposed to be in a relationship, or a woman is just supposed to be in society, and also disassociate from that role of how a man is supposed to be in society, and make your own rules. It's okay for you to make your own rules as to how you want to be perceived or how you want to show up. And another thing, and this might actually be the hardest, don't push down your history. Your history is a part of your journey, and it may have sucked. It may have been the most traumatic thing that has ever happened, but don't ever pretend like you are not. How do I say this? Don't ever pretend like your history never happened, because that will be even more. That will be even more detrimental to you if you try to pretend like you did not come from this family and you are actually from this family. Don't try to, in that making of your own rules, it's important for you to stay rooted in where you came from and own up to your story. And again, this requires a lot of work. A lot of work. I am not minimizing it, but you can make your own rules, but still know that this was your family dynamic and you were able to overcome it. You know, step by step. You're not going to be able to overcome it in a day, a month, or even a year. It might require a long process. However, I think it is important for us to honor our history wherever we may stem from. For some of us, it's a little better than others. However, even though we are not defined by our past, even though we are not our past or our parents, I think it's still important to know in the back of our mind that this has happened and this sucked and it was really bad. However, it is because I went through this that I'm able to be this. And to not be ashamed of this part of your life, but really own up to it. Yes, I went through this. Yes, I went through the challenges. Yes, my family was a complete mess. However, I am not my family. They are not me. And I was able to take that to shape my life into the way I want it to be shaped. And honestly, people are just gonna respect you more for owning up to your history than for you to try to pretend like something you're not. And again, I just want to add a small caveat. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. A lot of people in our world are not even self-aware enough to do this work. This will require a lot of work, which is why I will need to add therapy into this. If you can go to therapist, so you can join a therapy group, there are a lot of therapy options available now. And therapy will really help you unpack all of this in a secure space, in a safe space where you can unpack it, understand them, learn it, and eventually, on your own time, you can grow from it. Because therapy is there for you to be reflective of your past and reflect on the stuff that happened to you. But then, after you leave the therapy session, that is where you grow from it. Now that you have looked back at your past, now that you have mourned whatever needed to be mourned, now that you have just unpacked everything and evaluated them on a microscopic level, now you need to learn the lesson from that and eventually grow. So I would suggest therapy. I would suggest, yeah. So I would suggest therapy for this. Honestly, I wouldn't even, in a space like this, I wouldn't even be concerned with dating. Because I feel like when you're in a situation like this, you can kind of romanticize that relationship. You can kind of want a partner who is gonna come in and make everything better, Prince Charming, take you from poverty into a castle. That is how a lot of people fall into a trap. That's how a lot of people fall into bad relationships, because they were in such a low place, and then this person came in like thinking maybe Jesus the savior, and you thought you were gonna be saved, and you completely trusted them, and then they put you in an even worse space than where you were. So, if you're in a situation like this, and I know it's difficult, especially when you're a certain age. Some people are like, "Oh, you're not dating yet." I understand it's hard. However, you need to do what is best for you. You need to put yourself in the forefront. You need to evaluate your life and put yourself in the best position for you to continue into being your future self. You can't just sometimes tuning society out and just living in your own world, trying to evaluate who you are, where you came from, where you want to go, is what is needed to be done. Sometimes just sitting down, blocking everything out, and just focusing on your life is how you go about it. Oh my gosh, I'm losing so much light. Yeah, we're just losing so much light. This is why I hate winter. Anyways, so that is it for this episode. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And again, we got our stories from our Gmail account, which is kitchentableadvice@gmail.com. That's where we get some of our stories as well as business inquiries. So again, thank you so much for spending your day with us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.